For me, depression has been a paralyzing um, feeling of e- uselessness um, and unhappiness. And I don't know how to define that unhappiness because you don't really know what you're depressed about, but you're crying all the time. So you're deeply unhappy, but you don't know about what. And that's why Vipassana really helped me try to, like, when it makes, so now I cry less. Like, I don't give in to the whole, I can't, it hurts me, but like, let's just cry it out. I really I consciously try not to cry as much because when you stop reacting to something, so when your reactions are feeding it. So by not reacting to it, I feel like I'm feeding it less, and the pain is still there. So that's why I say paralyzing, because whatever depression is, it sort of it doesn't it hurts, it overwhelms you, and it causes you pain that interferes with everything else in your life. It's physical and emotional and mental. It's both, because sometimes your body doesn't want, like, it hurts to get up. It just hurts. All you want to do is, and you can't function once you're up. Like, I would say, like, the times I didn't want to, like, bathe or have a shower for days, I would go to the bathroom, and I would be so exhausted. Like, my body just say, you can't, I can't do it, I can't do it. It's just so tired. All I could do was just kind of just waddle back to bed and then sleep, and then you wake up and you're again in pain because everything hurts, like your muscles hurt, you need to move, you need to do something, but you can't. And then that translates into, like, more emotional mental pain, where it's like, I haven't done anything today, why am I not doing anything, why am I not being productive, what am I doing? And then I want to do this, I want to do that, but I can't. And then it's a cycle of, I wasn't happy with what I had. I always wanted more. I wasn't happy with how I looked. I wanted to look this way or that way. I wasn't happy with what I was doing. I wanted to do more. I wanted to do something different. I just wasn't able to. I think it was just the craving. And the thing is, depression is sort of, it becomes this um, uh, this, like, plateau of emotion where, like, it rises, like, all these this craving sort of pushes you up to this point. And then once you're depressed, it's that you're not even craving anything anymore. You're just in pain from all that craving that you just don't know. You're just so inherently unhappy. So for me, it wasn't like so it wasn't an active craving, but I know an active craving is what got me there. I became depressed because I wasn't happy with what I had. And now, because of, the depression was growing into this, I started becoming having these manic episodes where it would just be manic rage or manic and just complete volatility. I mean, volatile emotions, like pendulum swings. And so then I was diagnosed with BPD, which is borderline personality disorder. So I would have these absolute nightmarish reactions to when I would drink and I wouldn't get what I wanted. I mean, I endangered my life. I endangered my father's life. I remember one night I got home and I had lied, and I started this lying. I got into this phase of this horrible um, habit of lying. It was like a reflex action. Like, because I was suffering so much, I kept trying to hide. This is also sort of the denial mode, and because you want to protect yourself. So I didn't want to have to stop drinking. So I would say I would manipulate the depression and all these eating disorders. The kind of manipulative skill it creates, it sort of gives rise to, is unbelievable. Like, the kind of things I manipulated my parents and him into tolerating and doing for me is unreal. If we think about it, all three of us, like all four of us, are just like, I can't believe I kept giving into it. Like, why did I keep? Because you become a master manipulator. So I would convince him that, I'm not drinking this. I'm not drinking this time, and I would drink, and I would catastrophically, screw up, and I would manipulate him into forgiveness, and I would do it again and again and again and again until you push people to this breaking point, and you will destroy relationships and friendships. And I'm so grateful that I haven't destroyed that he's still in my life, and he's still a huge part of my life. But I'm very, very lucky to say that, because I'm surprised and lucky to say that, because honestly, if it went on any longer and this was my husband, or later on in life, it just gets worse. Your relations become stronger and you're responsible. When I have kids, when you have, it's there's a lot more at stake. So for me, see, cutting wasn't a horrifying thing for me at all, but it would horrify my and my parents didn't find out for a long time. They only found out when my boyfriend at the time found out. So that wasn't horrifying for me, but like the kind of things that those weren't horrifying because we were all like conscious, very conscious and very constant, and sort of even at a level mind, I would indulge in that. So it's not volatile reactions. Those are what were a lot more dangerous. Like this night when we went out and I told him I wasn't going to drink, and I got so drunk, like I was completely inebriated, where I couldn't stand, and he just broke down saying, I can't believe this person I care about so much is lying to me like this. Like it's more than being drunk, and I lied to him that I wasn't going to drink, and then so he left and I couldn't handle him leaving. So I started running around saying, "Oh my God, no, please, no, come back, come back, come back!" And then he left. He put his phone off. So his friends were with me, and they got me home, put me to bed. My parents were home. They put me in my room. I was still drunk, and they were like, let her be in the morning and stuff. So and I was insistent. I needed to talk to him. It was like this ridiculous craving. Like it was like a heroin shot. Like I needed it. And I was like, I need to talk to me too. And then they put me to bed, and then I was in my room, and they went downstairs and they all left. And as soon as they left, I was wearing this white dress. It was a brunch, and I was still in my dress. And I jumped out of bed and ran out of the house. And this was at like 1 o'clock in the morning, 12:31. And ran out of the house in my dress, barefoot, ran to this park like on my road, climbed the gate in my dress at this ungodly hour, and sat on the bench, and I started screaming for him, for this boy. I kept like my phone, I kept trying to call, I couldn't get through because he had blocked me or put his phone off or whatever. And my dad has come running behind me, and there were these, when my mom was obviously hysterical. She was like, go get her, and my dad came running behind me, and there were these three goons or some three guys who were walking past the park, and they were like, hey, look who's inside, and they were obviously going to come in, and my dad came from behind and said, what are you looking at, get out of here. And they did, but what if they didn't, and what if they pulled out a knife, and what if that night could have ended really, really, really badly, much worse than it already did, because it was a horrible, horrible night. And that's one night I don't remember all of it clearly, but obviously, but it's one night so, I wish, it's just such a horrible night. I'm so disturbed by it that I put my family through that and put everyone through that. And that's when I realized, like, okay, I need help. They did their best. My parents, so the one, initially they used to tiptoe on me. Especially when I had my manic attacks, my manic rage attacks, where it's so and they Googled, I saw it on my mom's iPad, she had like saved it on her reading list of how to deal with a manic person. And they were like step number 1, don't blame them, but hold them accountable later, don't make threats. So the one thing, so they really tried their best to like sort of calm me down, but it just didn't work. And the next day I would be back to myself. So in a matter of hours, even like once I'm sedated or once I'm like calm, I would come back with such deep remorse. It's hard to be, because it wasn't my fault. I wasn't actively trying to hurt them, but it was my fault. I was causing this pain. So it was a lot of understanding. I mean, they really, really were the most understanding they could have been, and they were the absolute best support and best parents I could have imagined, handling me. And it really took a toll on my mom, because I know how worried she was. But it wasn't nearly as bad as how they had to handle me, how they had to deal with things when I got into drugs and I stopped coming home. And I'm a girl in Bangalore, like staying in Tawilkere with my phone, just not answering calls. So as a mother, you're just awake at night saying, is she alive? Who is she with? And that was harder, because earlier, like I'm with her, so she knows she can. I mean, she's doing her best to help me, and the next day, I'm there for her to take care of me. But this was worse. So there was definitely I definitely had a conscience, and I felt super guilty during this drug phase, because I knew what it was doing to my mom and knew how worried she was. That's why I was worried. So I had this conscience, and I had this strong guilt which I would just actively suppress and push aside, saying, "Dude, screw it, you're on too much." Like and I did that because I didn't want to deal with the pain, and if I came out of that, I would have to deal with the pain without that person there as well. So just my parents and me, and I had been doing it for so long. It had been 5 years at this point. Well, I just couldn't do it anymore, and I just didn't want to do it anymore. So I just said, "Screw it, just put it out of your head. It's fine. It's this college life." I used to feed myself these, you know, uh, stupid statements like, "Oh, it's okay. It's college. Everyone does it in college. You're just trying to survive. It's fine. You'll get through this." Like just stupid things without like taking responsibility for any of it. And that was the only time I felt guilty though. When it came to my eating disorder, I never really felt guilty. When it came to depression, I felt guilty not for them but for me, because I was like, you're not being more as productive. Like, you have so much talent, you can do so much with your life. Why aren't you doing more? Look at other people around you. Look at other people your age. Why aren't you, living up to what you could be, your potential, stuff like that. So that was more me being hard on myself and me judging, me having a conflict of interest within myself of what I'm doing to myself and what I'm going through. But yeah, not really with anything else. And even with the bipolar, the borderline disorder, BPD, I was more like, again, guilty at what I was doing to him or that person, or externally what I was doing to other people. This person used to say often that, Deshna, you've just been dealt a really bad, really shitty set of hand, a really shitty hand by the universe, like a really shitty set of cards. That's it. And that isn't really a good thing to say, because it would make me feel I should like cling on that idea and say, yeah, you're right. You're right. I've been dealt this. I didn't do this to myself. Why is this happening to me? Why am I going through this? Why am I the one who's had to like suffer all this? Whereas that just makes you more angry and more. So you start feeling, instead of craving, you feel aversion. I just started feeling like strong aversion to my ailments, or my, instead of fighting, instead of feeling, like dealing with it, I just hated it. I hated everything about what was happening to me. Whereas Vipassana teaches you that over a period of time, once you go through the course, you start realizing that earlier would be like a 0% of blame, 100% blame. Then it becomes more like a, okay, 50% blame, 50%. And then now it's a point where it's just like 100% blame, 0%. Like you can't blame everything around you, because you're never gonna, nothing can make you better but you. Like I'm trying to get to a path where I am able to, I'm not even on a path right now, I'm really not. I'm just existing. And I'm just literally living this moment and just trying to be as economist as I can be in this moment, without craving and without feeling aversion to what I'm going through. Today, for me to drive here required effort, and I did that, which is good. And tomorrow I will try again to get up and do something else that I'm supposed to do, as opposed to just lying in bed all day, no matter how much I want to. Because on like today as well, I didn't want to get out of the house. I didn't want to get up. I didn't want to do anything. And very few people don't know how to deal with someone who's having extreme emotions, because they haven't experienced extreme emotions. This sort of helpless, hopelessness, where you don't know what to say. And so, and he said that he's like, I'm trying my best. I don't know what to say. And I said, I know you don't, and I need to talk to someone who does. And so, this would have helped me probably, if I had me to talk to me. But because then you don't feel alone, and you don't feel like you don't feel like you're the only one who wants to do something but can't do it, because then it kind of feels like, because I spoke to another friend about this, and when he asked me the same thing, he's like, you just want someone to listen to. And I was like, listen to you. And I said, yeah, it's listen to you, but like I'm so used to people listening to me, like my friends and family, with sympathy, but they know you're suffering, and but they don't know what that suffering is, so they only know that much, and they only know how, so they do their best. I don't know, it's just sometimes I just feel really like, sometimes it's a very lonely disease. It's very lonely like illness, because you feel like you're the only one going through it, even when you know you're not. And I don't feel like I'm the only one who's depressed. It's just like at that moment you feel like you're the only one who can't get up when everyone else around you's up. It's just our time, and people go on about, this generation is, everyone, depression is growing, it's so predominant, so it just exists so widely in society, in amongst this generation. And then when you talk about to your parents, like my dad, I mean, bless his soul, but he's literally, he responds like slightly as ignorant as my grandmom would, when it's like, Disha, but um, depression is just, you just have to think positive. And I'm just like, it's cute, I get what you mean, but I think they were born in, so you think about the Maslow's needs hierarchy, and they were born into the time of safety needs, and like, so your basic needs, your necessities, your shelter, your income, your job, your, all that, insurance, like that was what they needed, that was what they strived for, and I think that was what their generation was. Because even my granddad wasn't a wealthy man, so my dad had to take it, those were the responsibilities he had no time to think about, who he is as a person, or whether it was just, okay, work, get a good life, and be happy, that was it. And now I feel like we've entered this the sort of self-esteem, self-recognition level of the pyramid, where we've been born into security. We've been given security by our parents, and we've never had to worry about the next meal or the next something like that, or how am I going to support my wife and things like that, because I mean, so, and so now we're more that need for understand for the self-esteem need, where we need things to build up our self-esteem, and our, not, I would want to say ego, but to build our how we think of ourselves. And that's like how mine stemmed. That's how what my eating disorder stemmed from, because I didn't think much of myself. I didn't think other people thought good of me because I was chubby, and then it turned into depression when you just constantly want more external approval. And that's what leads into, like, and that's another thing I was talking to a friend of mine about, that it creates this dangerous pathway where, even if you're not depressed, this constant need for external approval is what sometimes leads you into this world of bad company and drugs and alcohol and sex, and where you constantly need to be uplifted and approved by someone else, where this promiscuity, where you gain approval, and you gain that sort of sense of attractiveness and appeal from someone else giving it to you, not yourself. you know I love myself. I do really like who I am as a person. I know I'm a good person, and I like who I am. But so I would say no now. I don't know what life has to offer. I don't know if something can destroy that. I really hope not, because I think I'm confident enough. See, the thing is, because you're asking someone who's come from a point where they didn't have that. So I know what it's like to not have that, but I don't see myself ever being like that again, because I think I really have a good idea of the person I am, and unless I change for the worst, which I really, you know, hope not, and I will do my best to keep myself this way. I don't think I can. I would let anyone else's view, opinion, approval, rejection of me define who I am. Or depression has been like a learning. It's been a familiarization process with me. I never met depression until I knew. So apparently depression was standing next to me the whole time. I just didn't know he was there until I was told by someone that, oh, this is depression. I was like, okay, that's what it is. So then I started understanding that, okay, this is what it is. That this is what it's called. It is something that is. It is something that is not completely voluntary. It's not a lack of effort on your part. It is something that is a chemical imbalance in your brain. I understand that now. So that's when you start, realizing that those chemical imbalances, you start identifying them, and now I'm aware when the trigger, when it's out of balance, or when it's lost, when my emotions are going to start swaying, when I'm, you know, yeah. The what I put my parents through, the the drug phase and the alcohol. Sorry, what I put my parents through and what I put this person through. I mean, it's a lot. I put him through a lot. So yeah, all three of them. Oh, when I started therapy and I started understanding more about my disorders and I started understanding more about eating disorders and what anorexia and bulimia is, I started becoming like more brave about them. And then I remember that seminar in Aditi. In Aditi, we had this literature seminar once a year, which was always done by like the 12th graders or the 11th graders, I think. I think it was the 12th graders. Um, so there was one presentation where so every group explores like a different topic. So like one group did like eunuchs and one group did, I don't know, fast food and one group did and eating disorders. And so they were doing this thing on eating disorders and focusing on models and fashion and eating disorders within the fashion industry. So while they were talking about, how so they weren't talking about eating disorders as being as afflicting the general population. It was about so many models have eating disorders because of body image issues and all that stuff like that, and because of this pressure of being this size 0, the size 2, and you have to do that. So that's why they have these pressures. And there was a boy in. So then it became, and then after the presentation, it's open to like audience debate. And there were some people who were saying like, but I feel like bad for them, but they should just be like smarter about it. And I get that like everything is every size is beautiful. And then one guy said, this junior of ours said. No, but I don't see why everyone's being like so sympathetic. Like, I don't know why everyone's making such a big deal of it. If it's their choice, if they make that choice to starve themselves, then like, why should I be sympathetic about it? They should just exercise. And that was when, so I was sitting in his classroom with so by this point, there were my very close friends who knew about it, including my father's. My father's was two best friends and another one or two people. So I was sitting next to this friend of mine, and I was looking at her and saying, I can't listen to this nonsense. And she said, you should say something. And then I said, and the room had about 75 people in it at the time, and I was like, I really don't think I can say something like that. Is terrifying. But then I was listening to it and I said, screw it, let's just be open, let's embrace this stupid disorder. And I got up and said, I'm sorry, but I interrupted. Basically, I stood up and I interrupted him and I said, I've been personally suffering with an eating disorder for 2 years now, and that is a really ignorant statement to make. And I went on about just, it's not a choice, it's not something we want to do, it's not something I want to do to myself. And then I sat down. So on sitting down, I just basically told my entire school or my entire like high school that I had an eating disorder. So by this point is when I was already trying to come out of it, because I'd accepted that I had a disorder, and I accepted that it was a problem I was fighting. And so at that point I had the support, and I had already had, and my principal knew about it, my boyfriend knew about it, my friends knew about it. So then that made all that support kind of made it easier for me to feel like, okay, just stop starving. Like, I remember this boy came to me later and said, I'm sorry if I didn't mean to insult you. I'm sorry if I hurt you. And I was like, no, you didn't hurt me, but just it's a very uninformed statement, which is not your fault, because majority people do have the same ignorant outlook that you did. Before I had an eating disorder, I would probably felt the same way. That it's so stupid. Why are you starving yourself? Just eat. I mean, exercise, do something healthy. I felt the same way. So I didn't blame anyone, but I never got blamed. That's just, I've been so lucky in dealing with in like the support I've been given when having to deal with the different disorders and different like diagnoses that I've been given, because everyone around me I've never felt judged or put down or blamed or any of that. So now, when I wanted to come out of anorexia and bulimia, I didn't research it, because like I haven't really researched any of the things I've been suffering. But I was young, because I was still like 16, 17, till I was about through the time I was 20. And my mom gave me those chicken soup so I think it was chicken soup for the teenage soul or something. There were lots of stories about these girls who had eating disorders, because in the West it's a lot more people talk about, like, it's a lot more advertised almost, like, there are stories, there are publications, there are lots of published stories of girls who have been through eating disorders, or are going through eating disorders, as compared to here. I haven't really met it. I have, but I haven't spoken to anyone else about eating disorders, barring one friend. Anyway, so when I was so and then there were these online stories, like, someone, I think, after I told everyone about it, like, even my best friends would send me links about someone else who's, written in some, who shared their story and been published in some newsletter or some. So, like, I kept seeing these things, and then after, like, when I was on the internet, I found that there was this one sect, this one, like, group of people or girls who treated bulimia as a lifestyle of, like, as uh, a laudable lifestyle, like, as something that should be appraised. And so they used to call it, sorry, it shocks me even when I think about it. It was it's called Mia.com, or I love Mia. I love Mia.com. That's the short form of bulimia. People say Mia, and it was filled with these girls who were encouraging each other to stay bulimic or to be bulimic, and like uplifting each other and giving each other encouragement, motivation, and saying, "Good job, Mia loves us. We love Mia. Mia's always there for you." That community has stemmed from those initial effects that I got from an eating disorder as well. But I felt great about myself before all the other crap, you know, burst open. So, but in the fashion industry, it also is a very accepted way of life. It's not really encouraged, but it is very accepted because of the kind of pressure that comes with that industry, that comes with the models of that industry. I mean, it's high pressure, it's high judgment, it is high expectation. So that is a very disturbing. It's troubling to think of how a disorder that's so is extreme, that's so damaging and can be so destructive, health-wise, career-wise, just can shatter your life, is something that is still on the boundary of actually being considered some something needs to be treated. It's on the boundary of being treated and on the boundary of being praised, and that really doesn't make sense, but it is. Yourself for what you have or haven't done, and um, try not, as best as you can, to give in to the feeling, or to give in to the pain and react to it, because it only makes it stay longer. When you cry, like, I found, when I cry and cry and cry and, like, give in to it, especially when I'm crying alone and there's no one to cry to, it just sort of lasts, the effects of that cry last longer, and I feel that pain for longer, as opposed to when I try not to react to it and observe it and wait till I don't need to cry anymore. So, yeah, just try your best not to feel blame and aversion, but just accept that it's there now, but without giving into it and saying this is my life. Don't identify yourself with it, because I have come out of it once. So